Hey everybody, before the show, I'm excited. I just want to shout it from the top of a mountain, but I don't have a mountain. I have a podcast studio and a microphone. Look, I report the news. That's what I do. And today's top story, in Max Trujillo's world, read something like this. I would like to wish my brother from another mother, Matthew Weiss, and his family, Mazel Tov, on their new baby boy born April 22nd at 4:38 a.m. His name? Gray Joseph Weiss, or as I will refer to him from now on, Lord Greyjoe, per the closing of Game of Thrones. This is Matt and Sarah's second boy, so now they have enough kids to create the next generation's Simon and Garfunkel, so I will look forward to their music in the next 15 years. Anyhow, Sarah, congratulations on all you had to do. Matt, you didn't do much. But congratulations to the Weiss family. If anybody else wants to give a nice shout out, just reach them on Instagram at WeissWine and let them know you love them. Like we do here at the NC F&B podcast. And now the show.
You're listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you from the Kitchen Studios, located high atop the historic Raleigh building, located in the heart of downtown Raleigh. The NC F&B Podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBPod. And now, the sommeliers to the stars, the barbacks in your backyard. It is Max and Matt.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today we are in studio with the owner, proprietor, and creator of the Glass Jug Beer Lab in Durham, North Carolina, Mr. Katy Creech.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Welcome. It's April still. It's North Carolina Beer Month.
Yes.
We're going to just keep drinking beer all month long. I mean, why not?
I mean, it is the thing to do. We're celebrating. We're honoring. Yeah.
Happy to facilitate.
Thank you. Yeah, and you have been a contributor into all of these festivities, and you are a contributor in multiple fashions. Meaning, you sell beer, you pour beer, and you make beer, all at the Glass Jug.
Yeah. We certainly try to be a one-stop shop. So we opened almost 5 years ago now as a retail bottle shop and small tasting bar, and have since expanded and are now brewing on site and have been for about a year now. So we're producing our own beer, selling our own beer. We also have 24 taps and a bottle and can selection of 400 or 500 different beers to choose from. And
you guys call yourselves a Nano-Brewery, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. We're brewing on a 3-barrel brew house,
okay.
So about 100 gallons at a time, and we've got 4 7-barrel fermenters, so we can double batch into that. But we're only brewing, with only 4 fermenters, we're only brewing about one batch a week.
One batch a week.
Yeah, so that's fun because we get to put out a new beer every week. So every Wednesday, we have a new beer release.
Okay.
We don't have a core beer that we're brewing the same beer over and over and over. Every week, we get to put something new out.
So is that the distinction between a nano brewery and a microbrewery, that it's one batch every week?
Yeah, I think when people are looking at what is nano versus what is micro, it's probably a blurry line, to be honest. But looking at per batch production and annual production, so we're less than 500 barrels per year. Annual production, which is definitely on the smaller side.
Gotcha. Is that where you guys want to stay?
Yeah, we'll see. Kind of the nice thing about being in the unique position that we are is we have a really flexible model. Again, we started as a retail beer and wine shop when people were buying lots of 22-ounce bombers of beer, and now everything's in 16-ounce cans, and now we're brewing our own beer on site. When we opened, the model for breweries was open a 10 to 15 barrel system, get into distribution, and try and get across the state. Now there's so much more focus on tap rooms. So we kind of catch on to all of those sides of the industry and look at where the industry is going and where do we want to be a part of that. So right now, the taproom model is working really well, and we like being able to sell almost all of our beers sold in-house by the pint. We have very little distribution. We're not doing a whole lot of wholesale. We do some, mainly for a marketing standpoint, just so people see our name and our brand out there, just really in Wake and Durham counties. But we're trying to have people see us out there, but then come buy the beer directly from us. We want you to come experience our beer in our tap room.
That's a really interesting model.
I like that. I mean, you want to be able to recreate and have that delicious beer you had once over and over again, but I like the idea of saying, no, you don't get to. and beer is a living thing. I mean, it's food, right? That's we've discussed in a previous podcast. But it also is, it has a shelf life, and it's only, it's unique to the season of when you drink it, and beer doesn't last forever unless it's purposefully aged beer, which is a totally different kind of style and concept. But this is cool. I mean, I guess you wouldn't say the same thing to like a taco place. You'd be like, oh, you're going to make this same taco today. Maybe that's a bad analogy because you do kind of make the same taco every day.
Well, especially if you're getting Tony's Taco Tube. I mean, you're probably coming by for that very same taco.
Yeah, but Tony's going to be making a lot of new, unique flavors all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do that I think kind of caters to both sides of that is we have a few series of beers. So IPAs right now are king. We have a kind of hazy New England style IPA series called Opacity. And we put out a different version of Opacity about once a month. So right now, the one we have on tap is Southern Hemisphere Opacity. It's all Southern Hemisphere, New Zealand, Australia hops. We have a Transparency series, which is our West Coast style IPA, and we vary that one. We just did one that we're calling Stormborn Transparency, aligning with the Game of Thrones release.
Yeah,
it
baby.
also uses the Pink Boot Society, did a fundraiser and did a hops blend. And the Pink Boot Society is a nonprofit organization that supports women in the beer industry. So we used that hop blend in this version of Transparency, called it Stormborn because of when it was releasing. But that's just one version of Transparency, and we do a different version every month. So those two IPAs, we do a Goza Kettle Sour series called Pi, P-I, and we have a lot of fun with puns on that. The recent
3.154 1592654.
The recent one was Raspberry Pi, was the one that just came out. We had done in the springtime, we do a strawberry, rhubarb, and basil pie. So we get to play with different flavors, but keep that core series. So we have these customers that come in like, oh, I love Opacity. I want to order Opacity. It's like, well, the one you had last time we don't have in, but we just have this new version that's going to be a little bit different. So it keeps that name recognition in the series, but we're also get to do something new every time we brew a beer.
So the Opacity, when you change that, so the only thing that changes is the hops that you use for flavoring, or
not
it
necessarily.
Could be anything. So really, it's just a name because there's no common thread through Opacity.
The style stays the same. So Opacity is always going to be a kind of hazy New England style juicy IPA.
Okay,
we've done some with fruit additions, some with lactose, some without any of those. We've changed the hops. We've played a little bit with the malt. We've used different yeast. It's not one of those things that people are like, oh, this batch has a different yeast. I can certainly tell. But for us, as we're trying to tweak that recipe, and each time we brew Opacity, make it better than the last one, we're able to kind of play with turn any of those knobs.
When you just had the retail shop and the bottle shop, you were probably bored. Like it sounds like you're it sounds like you really wanted to brew and get in there and take her and change flavors.
Yeah, so a little background on us. My wife and I run the shop. And so when we opened 5 years ago, Katy, my wife, is and was our general manager. So she was full-time running the retail side of things. I still had a full-time day job. I was our night and weekend volunteer working behind the bar. And I'm terrible at remembering names. I'm not who you want behind the bar. So
this is Max. That's Matt.
But so as
what was your day job?
I worked for a digital marketing consulting company.
Okay.
Yeah. Over in Chapel Hill. So I did that up until we moved into our new space and added the brewery. And then now I run and manage the production side of things.
Nice. Isn't that awesome? Like, oh, I got an office job, probably not 9 to 5, but whatever it was. And it's like, no, I have another place. I'm going to brew beer for a living.
Yeah. So you are the brewer.
Correct.
That's cool, man. And when I talk to brewers, every brewer always says to me, dude, it's easy. Anybody could do it.
Right.
But then I look at the idea of making beer, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So how did you figure that out?
So we started homebrewing when we were in college. We were about 21 when we started making our own beer.
Sure. Only on your 21st birthday was when you first had your first beer.
Yeah. Actually, to be completely honest, our first homebrewed beer, we bottled it and we opened the first one on my 21st birthday.
That
awesome. Is no lie.
Nice.
So the first legal beer I had I made.
How was it?
I thought it was great.
Oh, okay.
Looking back, I'm sure it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the time, you're 21 and you made it yourself. You're pretty dang
Awesome,
proud of it.
Yeah.
But so we
Matt,
start.
what was your first drink on your 21st birthday? Do you remember? I'll give you time to think. I bought a 22-ounce tall boy of Heineken at 12:30 a.m. the previous day at the local grocery store, of which the lady was trying to give me crap saying that you're not allowed to do that. And I was like, it is the 29th of September. And she's like, yeah, but it's still our business day and blah, blah, blah. The guy behind her went, just buy him the beer. Or like, let him buy the beer. It's 12:30 at night. There's no one in there. She goes,
Wait,
fine.
it's technically the 29th.
Yeah,
I don't
she's
understand.
like, fine, whatever, and whatever. And so I went home with my 22-ounce tall boy of Heineken. That was my first drink that I purchased myself.
Yeah. I really don't remember because I was also spending that semester in Australia. And in Australia, the drinking age was different. So
you didn't even get the experience of being cool at 21 and being able to drink.
Yeah, no. But I do remember my best friend came to visit me on his 21st birthday in Australia, and it was $2 Tuesdays at the ranch. And I told everybody that was coming that it was his 21st birthday. Let's just suffice to say the next morning was not pretty because in Australia, they celebrate with bushfires, which are a whiskey shot with Tabasco in it. So
Wow.
imagine being hungover
I could
with.
get into that.
It tastes good, but
I thought you were going
imagine
to tell me
being
it was
hungover
like
with hot sauce though in you. So like your insides are burning and you're hungover at the same time,
you said bushfire. I thought you were going to tell me it was like Bush Light with a shot of Fireball in it or something.
Yeah.
which is probably something that you just could be as well.
A lot of Fosters.
Fastest. They don't even drink Fosters down there. You know, it's VB Victoria Betta.
Oh, is that
At
right?
least at the time, it's probably that was. Not to date myself, but over 20 years ago. So
you're brewing beer. You're obviously a fan of beer. You're really a fan of beer because you and your wife opened up a beer shop to sell beer. So this is definitely wasn't something you fell into or came upon. You had the strategy to say, we want to get involved in this. And you're a young guy right now, so it's not like this has been going on for a long time. But take us from you make your first beer on your 21st birthday, arguably, and then how long later until you actually opened your place?
We opened when we were 26.
Okay, so it's a 5-year
about
span.
5 years, yeah.
That's not bad.
Well, what had happened, we were in college in Chapel Hill. We lived and worked in Chapel Hill for a couple years after college and then moved to Durham. And we moved into the south side of Durham. And at that point in time, there was no real craft beer scene on that side of town. Now there's been several awesome spots open up. But at the time we moved in, we're like, man, it'd be great. We were used to going to beer study, and Chapel Hill had opened at that point. And just Tyler's was there. There was lots of good beer in Chapel Hill and Carborough. And then in South Durham, it was like, wow, where's all the great craft beer we were used to?
Yeah.
And simultaneously, that was the same time. So that was 2013 that the North Carolina legislature updated the growler filling laws.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. We have somebody at the door. Who could it be?
Who's there?
Hey guys,
What's up, man?
how's it going?
This isn't cooked at all. Wait.
No.
Hey, everybody. It's
Totally
Kyle and
spontaneous.
Heather Sutton of Bestow Baked Goods. That's right. Your favorite bakery that's just going to be moving into Holly Springs, Matt's neck of the world.
Right next to Triangle Wine Company.
Wow.
exactly
It's
right.
almost like this is like a
Match made in heaven.
a segment. No, welcome, guys.
What are you guys doing here?
Thank you for having us. Well, as part of our sponsorship deal, the thing we like to do is supply your guest with our baked goods because we're fans of the North Carolina restaurant scene first before
Yeah.
we were kind of bakery owners. So we came to do that, man. So one of our signature items is like the sweet potato cakes. Heather's grandmother's from a very small town in eastern North Carolina, and she's like one of those old school bakers with like no recipe, a pinch of this, a dash of that. So we took that and kind of put it into this cake, cream cheese filling, vanilla icing, your logo on the top. I fat fingered it putting it into the box because I have like 9 thumbs, but before that happened, it was awesome, man. Hope you
This is
enjoy.
cool.
Yeah,
That looks great.
I shouldn't be allowed to work in the bakery. I should just like pay bills and do marketing shit because like boxing the cake is just not for me.
Boxing that cake, especially with is not easy.
It's not.
But
It's not.
Those boxes are awesome, by the way.
It's a life skill that I've not developed.
We'll post those pictures, but that cake looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take a picture now because I'm about to eat it.
There is a small kitchen if you guys want to have some cake now.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We used to do the gift bag sponsorship where we gave our guests a gift bag, but we did away with that a while ago. And now we just give them cakes from Bestow. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
We're happy to do
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and actually, Kyle, this makes a little bit of sense. We were talking about unique beer. We were talking about drinking, small batch beers in general. And Kyle was at Funk Down on the Farm this weekend. We're going to speak with the folks at Botanist and Barrel coming up soon.
Awesome.
But they did the inaugural festival of Funk Down on the Farm this weekend where it was torrentially raining down on everyone. We were talking about cool collabs. What did you think, Kyle, about the whole event?
Incredible event, man. Had a great time getting into not just the traditional things that come out of North Carolina, but some of the spontaneous ferments. I mean, really off-the-wall experience. It's encouraging to see kind of what the craft brew community is doing in North Carolina, man. We're a phenomenal beer state, and we had a blast. Like, terrible weather aside, it was a good time. Had like Michael's English Muffin on site. It was it was a
Wooden
good
Nickel,
day.
Michael's English Muffins, Ed O'Brien Distilling. I think Matt Konar was cut off, not because he was drunk, but because he kept sampling all of their samples. No hyperbole, he had maybe 7. And the lady said, okay, that's enough.
I think you get it. I think you have sampled.
You got it. He's like, what? It's so good. She's like, yeah, but I need to give these to other people. So, but I mean, great collaborations. Bond Brothers was there, and Wooden Robot, and we had
Full Steam.
Full Steam was there. Crank Arm, Trophy. But you get it. It was all the cool kids and some of the best brewers in town. But they were collaborating together, making unique flavors. Dissolver's brand new. I don't know if you had that chanterelle mushroom beer they did.
Ridiculous.
Crazy stuff. But we'll speak to them. Everybody, if you didn't go, you were dry, so that was cool. But you did miss out on a really fun event. And Kyle, Heather, we're going to have to talk to you a little more in depth, too. Matt, I don't think you know this, but Kyle fancies himself a champion pitmaster.
I did know that. No.
I make a little barbecue from time to time.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a brisket coming my way at some point in the near future.
So I have a tradition, man. You have a brisket, I will come to you have a baby, I'll come to your home and bring you a brisket. It is a baby brisket.
And my wife is due any day now, so yeah.
You got one coming, man.
Make enough for me, and I'll be there, too.
Well, actually, we'll make you guys some barbecue, too. We'll do a separate barbecue thing here at the kitchen in the near future because you guys are awesome.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming on.
You guys are awesome.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for these custom-made cakes.
Absolutely. You guys have a great one.
And
see ya.
The location is not open yet, but when do we think we're going to see the Bestow baked goods in Holly Springs?
So we're aiming for kind of late summer, early fall. So we're fully operational now in downtown Fuquay. So 128 Fuquay Avenue, right across from the DMV. We partnered up with some friends of ours that have Cultivate coffee roasters, but we very quickly kind of started stepping on one of their toes because of space concerns. And now in the summer we're moving. So
that is so cool. So at the time now, you can still get baked goods from you. Contact you on at Bestow Baked Goods on Instagram, or just find them online.
Absolutely.
You can get it now. But and then look forward to the new shop coming up soon.
Happy to be moving, man. Holly Springs is a good side of town. Fuquay's been phenomenal. We're still going to have a small presence there, but we're doing like a ton of like wedding cakes now, and so that requires a walk-in cooler, as it turns out, and we're just not set up for it, man. So we're going to make it work.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. Keep it down.
She's so rowdy.
Super talkative. Sorry.
I'm like sleeping on the couch for a week because we did. She's like, I don't want to be on the podcast, Kyle. You're a son of a bitch. So she's here. We got her chuckle in the background, and it was worth it. No regrets.
Right.
Well, you keep
I
making
showed
the
my
cake.
face on the podcast.
There you go.
That's helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, man. Have a
See
great
you
one.
guys.
Thanks, Al. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
This show is turning into like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood every day. It's great. It's like, now look who's coming in.
Yeah, it's great. I love when people come in, especially the other day when we were sitting here and we were both like, oh man, we're hungry. And then, what do you know? A little fairy dropped by. Some Big Dom's bagels were outside.
Yeah, Amber Felizi in the middle of our podcast just showed up with bagels, texted us, and was like, okay, we're going to leave them there and see you later. And just a ton of bagels and a ton of cream cheese. Really, really good,
Spicy
too.
pickle.
You guys are just living the dream.
Let that be known to everybody else out there.
Yeah.
We're usually here on Mondays and
And you'll
Fridays.
probably get a mention. No, but exceptional.
Well, this is a good time to do a little bit of a semi break in that, not a sponsored break, but a beer break, right?
Yeah, let's pour that beer. But we were just getting into something that I don't want to gloss over, because Chris, you guys were instrumental in getting House Bill 829 passed, which you can explain a lot more than I can, but essentially created a new standard for filling growlers.
Yeah, absolutely. So that really kind of spurred what we wanted to do. It was 2013. We had recently moved to Durham. We were noticing the kind of lack of great craft beer on that side of town. And then they passed that law, as you mentioned, which allowed retail stores to fill growlers. Up until that point, growlers could only be filled
directly from the brewery.
And so, we were good friends with, at the time, the bottle shops around, like the only bottle shops around in the area. You had, Tasty in downtown Raleigh, Bottle Rev over on Lake Boone, and then Beer Study in Chapel Hill.
You had Sam's too,
and
right?
Obviously Sam's since the 80s.
Yeah.
And so we knew all those guys, and we said, hey, how is this law going to change what you all do? Are you going to start doing growler fills? And most of them at the time were like, nah, probably not. It's too much effort. It's cool that that's now allowed, but that's probably not something we're going to do. So we said, well, shoot, if no one's going to do it, there's not good craft beer around here. Let's open and let's fill growlers and do it right. So we spent the investment to put in 4 counter pressure growler filling machines, which allow us to fill growlers by purging out all of the oxygen, replacing it with CO2, and then filling it under pressure. And that does 2 big things for you. One, the oxygen not being in there is going to keep that beer from tasting stale. So usually you fill a growler, if you don't drink it within a day, it starts to taste old, wet, papery, oxidized.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is by filling under pressure, all that carbonation actually stays in the beer instead of coming out as foam when you're filling it from the tap. So our beers stay fresher longer and taste more like you're actually drinking draft beer when filled that way.
So what were you filling the growlers out with at that point? Just whatever you had on tap, because you weren't making beer at that point, right?
Correct. Yeah, when we opened, we had 16 beers on draft at our old location. And so we would fill anything we had on draft. And we still do. So we still, at our current spot, we now have 24 taps. Anywhere from 4 to 8 of those are ours, and the rest are still guest taps, and we fill growlers of all of them.
Nice.
So you just poured us 3 heaping glasses full from a growler, or a crowler, I should say. It's like a can growler, right? So that's a quart or 32 ounces. I'm looking at it right now. Where you seal these cans on site.
Yeah, we're just really confusing people by calling ourselves the Glass Jug, then putting our beer in cans.
Yeah,
just
technology,
to
man.
Really. And that is one of the things we do to differentiate. So we fill growlers of anything on tap, but we pre-fill crowlers of our beers. So we have these available every Wednesday. We fresh fill crowlers. So we do a new beer release every Wednesday, and we fresh fill that beer and everything else that we have on draft that's ours every Wednesday. So you come in on a Wednesday, you're gonna have the best selection of super fresh crowlers.
Nice. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that crowler filled our 3 glasses full, like 3 huge big beers right now. So that's pretty sweet. I mean,
yeah, it's 2 pints. So, 2 16-ounce pours, or, we've got 3 10 or 12-ounce pours. So,
Yeah, this is a good sharing with friends. And what are we drinking? What's the beer?
So this was a really fun one we did. You're going to be able to find this beer. We've got it on draft. We're also bringing a bunch of it to Brewgaloo, happening in downtown Raleigh, probably shortly after this airs. This was a collaboration beer we did with Durham Distillery. It's called Durham 150 to celebrate the city of Durham's 150th anniversary. We brewed a very low alcohol, 3.1% ABV Belgian wit beer, really smooth, clean tasting, and then we, instead of using the traditional orange peel and coriander as the spice notes for a Belgian wit, we used, in addition to orange peel and coriander, all of the botanicals that Durham Distillery uses in their Conniption American Dry Gin.
What are they? Tell me.
he's not allowed to say.
Unfortunately, I cannot tell you what they use in their gin, but
I can tell you.
You
this
will.
master palate right here.
Yeah, you can pick out everything in there.
I will. I mean, the notes that you're going to pick up most strongly, we did adjust the ratios for the beer because we didn't want it to, taste just like gin. It wasn't going to be super juniper forward. This one, the flavors that come through, we use the most of orange peel and coriander because those are the typical wit beer spices. But to me, I also get a good hit of cardamom comes through in that one. We didn't use a lot of cardamom, but it's just one of those spices that really pops.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting it like because it's actually in here or what, but I always get a little bit of cucumber in the back. But I know that that Melissa and Lee over there do the cucumber vodka as well, and so I get a little of that fresh. But that's on the palate. It's fresh and delicious, and it's what you would expect. I mean, it has the botanicals of gin in this deliciously crisp beer. Like,
I just want to say, to borrow a phrase from our good friend over at St. Jacques, Serge Falco's Vigne, this is so good.
It's really delicious.
It's really good. And it's only 3.2%.
Yeah, 3.1.
This is 3.1%. Yep. This is what you drink, I want to go out lunch and have a beer and not feel
sipper.
Not feel drunk.
Yeah, well, I felt
I might drink this whole thing on the pod.
We were filming in the morning, and I felt like showing up. We also have a triple barrel aged barley wine that's over 10%, but I felt like that might be a bit much for a morning session.
And for a Monday morning, if we were recording on a Friday, then I would say bring a 10.1.
Sure.
Just to out you for all those.
Show up when we do record this Friday as the best baked
chopped off at 10.1.
That's great, and I love the collaborative ideas of doing this. Of course, we love Melissa and Lee over at Durham Distillery, and they are, quite possibly the best gin in our state, and dare I say, country, dare I say, world.
Yeah,
by the way, it's spring break when all of our kids are here, so.
Yeah, no, I love their gin. When we've been friends with them for a while, we were their neighborhood beer and bottle shop up until they got too busy to go anywhere because they're pumping out so much great stuff over there. But we've been friends with them for a while, and we've been honestly looking for a good excuse to do a collaboration. And then in talking with Sean over at Full Steam and Seth at Bull City Burger about the Durham 150th anniversary, we got together, and all of the Durham breweries have decided to do a collaboration with another Durham food or beverage provider. And I was like, well, here's our chance. We've not pulled the trigger yet to do this collab with Durham Distillery. We need to partner with somebody. So I sent Lee an email, and they're like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome. This is released now. You can get this now.
It'll be at Brewgaloo, which is on the 26th and 27th of April.
The Durham 150th anniversary, it kind of happens to coincide with North Carolina Beer Month.
Yeah.
So we're doing celebrations all throughout April. So all of them just released last week. So as of this recording, so we released them around the 10th to 15th of April. And we did a big tap takeover last week at the Glass Jug where we put all 6 of them on draft so you could come in and do a flight and try all of them. I know Full Steam did the same thing. And then we're doing a thing at the Durham Visitor Center where we're all going to be out there pouring samples as well.
That's a sesquicentennial, I believe.
Sesquicentennial. Nice.
Yeah, I think
Say that 10 times fast.
I just remember when San Jose was celebrating their 150 year.
I've seen it written. I've never tried to pronounce it. So props to you.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick little break from today's podcast to speak with our friends over at the Forrest Firm. And today we have a new voice. Everybody welcome Miss Leslie Lasher, an attorney at the Forrest Firm with a focus on employment law. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah, this is exciting. Leslie Lasher, I got to say, and you've probably heard this before, your name does sound like a supervillain's alternate name, right?
Yes, I get that quite often, actually, or a news personality. But yes, it's Leslie Lasher.
Well, Leslie, because you have a focus on employment law, a lot of content that we talk about here is based on hiring, longevity, the workflow, all of this in the restaurant, food and beverage industry. There's so many employees and so much going on that we would love to dive in a little deeper. And so also for anyone listening, if you have questions, please email us, ask a question, and we'd be happy to speak to an attorney at the Forrest Firm about your questions. Let's talk about something. This actually came from Matt Weiss, who's at home taking care of baby Cam right now. In this day and age of harassment, whether it's sexual harassment or just in general, during the hiring process, what are we allowed to bring up and what are we not allowed to bring up when we're hiring a new employee for a restaurant?
You really want to focus on the job duties. Those are extremely important in the food and beverage industry. What are you carrying? What are you lifting? Are your materials 50 pounds of French fries that someone has to lift and put on a shelf? Those are things you want to talk about, but they should be related to the job duties. The difference here would be if someone is disabled and they might not be able to lift that. The appropriate question is, can you do the job duties, not are you disabled, for example, or have you ever been injured on the job? Those are questions that come later in that initial interview process. You want to focus mostly on the job duties and whether the person can do the actual duties. You also want to make sure they fit with your environment and your team. Just staying away, of course, from anything that could be construed as discriminatory based on race, gender, ethnicity, age, and disability are good examples of those.
Good to know. Keep it professional, everybody.
To learn more about the Forrest Firm and what they can do for you, click the link in our show notes. Or visit forrestfirm.com/NCFB to request a free consultation for your business. You can also reach them at 877-669-1455. Forrest Firm, business attorneys across North Carolina.
Well, okay, great. So let's talk about the shop, the brewery in itself a little bit more. So I mean, it's not a conflict of interest. You're making your own beer, but you're selling beer. You're immersed so deep in there that you also celebrate breweries and kind of give light or give note to people. I believe right now for this month you have Trophy as your brewery of the month, and that's something that you kind of take pride in, that you guys focus on somebody. What does that mean when somebody is the brewery of the month?
Yeah, so every month since the first month we opened, so it's been going for almost 5 years now, we have had a North Carolina brewery of the month. So it's always a North Carolina brewery, and we have them come in. I guess, Trophy was our March brew of the month, and then Wise Man in Winston-Salem is our April brewery of the month. So we do a few things. We do a big tap takeover event to kick things off. We usually have somebody from the brewery come in to kind of rep what they're doing, pour some samples, and we usually get some pretty cool stuff. So we've done collaborations with a lot of these guys just because they're friends of ours and they make good beer, and so we go over there and brew together and release that.
Yeah.
So we've done a bunch of collabs. We have them bring in some of their small batch stuff, quote unquote taproom only things to kind of get some buzz out. But then throughout the month, we keep 2 taps dedicated to that brewery, and we just rotate through so that our customers, as they come in over the course of the month, really get exposed to their whole portfolio and get to see what is this brewery about, what are they making. And then if the brewery offers bottles and cans, we obviously stock those all month and honestly the whole year.
Yeah.
What if somebody gets hungry while they're drinking all these beers at the Glass Jug?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
We don't have a kitchen.
Okay.
We do have a lot of local North Carolina-made snacks. We keep pretzels, chips, chocolates, all the typical bar food. But we have several awesome restaurants nearby. So there's a great dim sum place, East Coast Asian Bistro is right next door. True Flavors does an awesome brunch. Chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, good Southern cooking. We've also got Tandoor Indian and Ilana all in our shopping center.
Okay.
And then every Friday night, we have a rotating food truck that comes out.
Nice.
So Friday nights, which is a great night for us, we've got a big beer garden out back, lots of picnic tables, lights strung up, cornhole, disc golf baskets, fun place to hang out after work on a Friday. We get a food truck out every week, and it's a rotating cast of characters for that.
Can people bring in outside food into the Glass Jug?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially from the
all those
surrounding-
restaurants nearby. And then honestly, Kokyu Namin being right across the street, they do some of the best banh mi sandwiches around.
That place is delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you, anytime someone brings in some Namin and I start smelling it, I know what I'm having for dinner.
Namin?
Yeah.
Namin?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk beer for a little bit. Let's figure out just beer in general, where beer is going with North Carolina. And we've previously discussed with a few brewers that, a trend, let's say, is to go back to lagers, right? Like kind of like the light lager, the crushable, easy drinking pilsners and all kind of seem to be something there. As one that's in the retail acumen, and you're not just repping your own beer, but all beers, you're going to get a really good idea, cross-section of what's going out the door right now. So what is that right now?
Yeah, I can tell you're talking to a lot of brewers. Brewers really want lagers to be the thing.
But people, not so much.
We're getting there. I think we're getting there. It's all a pendulum. You know,
it's still IPAs right now, isn't it?
It's absolutely.
And I don't think I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like, let's say lagers do get popular, it doesn't mean that IPAs are going away.
Right. Everyone's always asking, well, what's going to take over the IPA? What's going to be the next IPA? And I look at them and I say, IPA is. It's just going to be some different type of IPA. You know, we had the black IPA a few years ago. And then we've got the New England style hazy IPAs. Now the brute IPA, so the super dry, kind of champagne like IPA.
Right.
So there's going to be some new IPA. With a milkshake IPA, sour IPAs. That those three letters put onto the beer name just immediately increases sales.
Sure.
Like year over year since we opened, IPAs are our best seller. Granted, we are seeing IPAs and then seasonals. Like that's the other thing that, when you group the style and call it seasonal, the limited release, one-off batches, that's what people want.
Mm-hmm.
As Adam over at Crank Arm said, like the best flavor is new, or whatever it's like. But that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, as soon as something new comes out, that's what you're selling. That's what people want. And because you can get whatever you need to get for yourself, whenever, you can buy that 22-ounce bottle of Heineken whenever you like. But if you're going to go to, say, the Glass Jug, if you're going to go to Funk Down on the Farm, if you're going to go out into the world, you want to try something that you haven't had before that you could only get there. So I guess that's kind of where beer is. And maybe as we mentioned before, maybe we're moving more to the smaller distribution, but really keyed in on like high quality, smaller batches, and then just keep redoing that over and over again, and that's kind of where we're at.
The few trends that I see is absolutely there's this culture of check-in. You got to check it off your list. Have I had this yet? Yep. I don't want it, no matter how great it was. 5 stars on Untapped. Oh, they have that on their menu. Oh, but I've already had it. Let me try this other thing.
Right.
So that absolutely
so
is
yesterday,
going on.
bro.
Yeah.
It was so last Wednesday.
And I mean, it's if you look at how we've set up and that. We put out a new beer every week, and we do a series. It's not like every opacity is the same. It's like, well, this one's a little different. It gets people to try, quote unquote, the same beer because it is a little different. It's another check-in.
Yeah.
So that absolutely is happening. The trend toward focusing on the tap room and your super local market, I think, is absolutely another trend that we're seeing in the beer industry. Even some of these bigger breweries, it's opening tap rooms. They're not like, well, we need to open another big distribution warehouse. We want another tap room. Even Catawba has opened 3 different tap rooms across the state.
Yeah.
And it's kind of trying to service that local market.
Yeah, Burial just came down here into the Transfer Co. area, and they're crushing it, at least from what I can tell from the outside looking in, because there's a line out the door every single day.
They're doing great. High Wire just opened in the Golden Belt area in Durham, and it's huge. We went over there one day, and they were just flooded with people.
Yeah.
And they're killing it.
It's interesting, too, when a brewery, say, like New Belgium or Sierra Nevada, say like one of the places that are not from North Carolina came here, most businesses, there's like trepidation by the locals about anything outside coming in. But I'd say those two in particular have done such a significant job of bringing the culture that they instill, but also that any beer lover would really enjoy, to where it's like, yeah, I buy in. Like Sierra Nevada, sure, they're doing it great, and they didn't seem like these carpetbaggers coming in and doing whatever. It's like, no, we're just here now, and we're going to make beer here, and we're a part of the community. But
yeah, and all those breweries that you mentioned, they have gone above and beyond to really make themselves a part of the community, because there was trepidation, speaking for some of the Asheville breweries that were there when these big breweries were moving in. There was that worry, like, oh, they're just going to come in and take all the shelf space in the taps. They have so many more resources. But they have all done a good job at being collaborative and sharing information and resources and being a part of the community and giving back to the community. So I think they've done a good job of buying in.
I think it's more like the people are pretty specific out here as to what they want. I think it's more like, can an outside company be accepted by the area? I think, sure, if you're a brewer and you're in Asheville, you're concerned that someone big is coming in, but really the Asheville people are more like, no, prove it to us that we should be buying your product. Yeah. It takes a little bit for people to come in here and succeed, unless they decide to kind of assimilate into the culture of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here wowed by the whole beer industry as a whole. The whole beer industry as a whole.
Sure.
When you think about it, and me, in my wine job, and especially having dealt with liquor, it's so antithetical to what we think of for most people. Like, you think of people in liquor. I mean, sure, they're willing to try new things, but at the end of the day, when they're going and buying their bottle, they're buying their Grey Goose vodka, their Kettle One, they're buying their Beefeater gin or Hendrick's gin or whatever they've been drinking for years. And it's real. I mean, brand loyalty is real in liquor. And then in wine, it's very certainly people are cutting edge, and there's more enthusiasm about change. But at the end of the day, if you look at globally, Kendall Jackson's Chardonnay still rings, still reigns as the king of what people want to try.
24 years in a row of the number one Chardonnay sold in the United States.
Yeah, and I guess we are talking with things on a micro level or even nano level when we talk about, Raleigh and North Carolina.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, Bud Light is still outselling anything the Glass Jug.
Yeah, I guess that's
it's
true.
still going to be number one, but it's that long tail. You've got the behemoths up front who have the majority, but then there's such a long tail of so many people making small volumes.
Yeah.
And I do think craft beer is having some influence on particularly distilling and cider, specifically locally. We're seeing a lot more craft distilling. We're seeing more craft cider, and we're seeing people kind of step into trying local on that front.
Yeah.
Wine, it might take a little while to get there, but
It's funny that you say that, though, because I was thinking, and to kind of add to what you're saying, Matt, about the wine industry with people, deciding to buy a new label. I was at a wine shop recently, and I noticed that a lot of the wine labels that were there were taking a lot of risks with their style, with their art direction, in the same sense that the way beer does it. Like, every beer label is crazy. Like, they're just, there's no rules at all, and it's just, it's going nuts. Whereas in wine, there technically are a ton of rules about like how the wine label should look, and if you go to like an old Burgundy label, it's like no, you have to have all these things written specifically, the house, the region, all of it has to be tight. But a lot of new American wineries are coming out and just saying, screw it, let's just throw something against the wall the way the breweries are doing it and make it fun, because we have to appeal to a younger market that doesn't want to drink what their grandfather was drinking. And even though what their grandfather was drinking in a wine sense is way better than what like a modern winery could possibly do, their marketing, maybe I shouldn't be so brash.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, traditionally, you drink a Puligny Montrachet from Burgundy. Everybody's grandfather and their grandfathers have been drinking that wine for so long, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And it's never not going to be awesome. It's always going to be beautiful, but it's going to be exactly what it is. It drinks like Puligny Montrachet.
Yeah.
But now there are new wineries coming out that are taking a page from the microbrew, the beer model of, let's package this differently, even in the actual form. It's not even in a bottle anymore. It's in a box. It's in a can. It's whatever, in my backpack.
Yeah.
But then also just giving it this like availability so that it doesn't feel so disassociated from just the common.
You take the pretension
drinker
and pompousness out of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. I think there is a trend, but I think also just thinking this over, beer, you make a new batch every week, right? Wine you can make once a year.
Yeah, you can't afford to make a mistake in wine.
Yeah.
Like, or you can't go too far out of the box, let's say, because there's fear that it could come out really bad, and then now what are you going to do?
You're screwed till the next harvest.
Yeah.
Unless you're in Brazil. You know that there's a place in Brazil way in the south that you have 2 harvests a year?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. For wine grapes?
Yeah.
I don't think I've even ever had a Brazilian wine.
You don't see too much of it, but yeah.
Bring it in, Matt.
All right. We'll have to get there's a master of wine, Evan Goldstein, who used to do some Brazil seminars, and I went there and learned that. But
wow,
that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Anyway, although you guys do some wine at the Glass Jug as well.
Yeah, we absolutely do wine. We have it's not a huge selection. We're definitely more of a beer shop, but we try to bring in a really interesting wine selection. It's not the big brands that you see in all the grocery stores. We work with smaller importers who work with smaller vineyards. So you're going to see some of that more weird stuff, whether it's local, like, well, not local, but U.S. wines, or even coming from other countries. Small organic farms in the Piedmont region of Italy. Something like that. So we have some cool stuff, and we try to keep a pretty good price point with them. We don't have the $100 bottles of wine because it's just not our clientele. Our clientele's coming in for beer and maybe also picking up some wine for a party. So we want that really good value wine, that $20 bottle that's really going to wow some people.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering, how often you have a new beer every Wednesday? How far out do you plan those?
We have to plan pretty far out because we keep such a tight production schedule. With only 4 fermentation tanks, we're trying to keep them full pretty regularly. And being on such a small batch, when we're ordering ingredients, they're coming by the pallet, so it behooves us.
The ingredients are coming by the pallet.
Right.
Okay.
So it's better for us to order more ingredients at a time to fill that pallet because we're paying the shipping regardless.
Right.
So if I'm only ordering a week's worth of ingredients, I'm paying a buttload in shipping. Whereas if I can order a month at a time, we're doing pretty well. So we're usually planned 4 to 8 batches out, so a month or 2 out.
Okay.
And then we do just on top of us doing small batch anyways, we have a little half barrel pilot system where we throw in some fun stuff about once a month just to try out something new or different or a different process, or just kind of fill a gap. Like we wanted to do Cinco de Mayo's coming up. We wanted to have a good Mexican lager, Vienna style Mexican lager, dark lager, thinking like Negro Modelo kind of lager. But we didn't have the time in the production schedule to do a full 3-barrel batch because lagers, they take longer. They take up more space. So we kicked one out on a little half-barrel system. So the week of Cinco de Mayo, we'll have a keg of that on, and then it'll be gone.
Max is always looking for a good Mexican lager.
Heck yeah, man. That'd be awesome. I got to try that.
And I mean, creativity seems endless in the beer world. Doesn't it ever get exhausting? Like, not only do you have to figure out what you're putting on tap from the other places, but you have to come up with a new beer every Wednesday, sometimes the small batch system, and then you also have to do all these collaborations. Where do all the ideas come from?
Yeah, no, it's definitely tiring. The hardest part is coming up with names for all these beers.
Seriously. I can't even think of a name for my son that's going to be here in a few weeks,
Batman.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I second it.
That'll be in the running, yeah.
Yeah.
Cam might get jealous about that one, though. But
He could be Superman.
yeah, we'll have to rename him.
There you go. It's definitely, it's a lot. I mean, and that's part of why we have the series is so that we don't have to come up with totally new names every time.
Right.
Southern Hemisphere
Makes sense.
Opacity, literally it's Opacity with Southern Hemisphere hops.
Right.
Double Opacity was a double IPA version of Opacity. So we get to be a little more literal that way.
That's just like how the surnames came up, like Smith. Oh, you were a blacksmith, or
exactly.
you were,
Matt, are you going to go with naming this child traditional name, or are you going to go with something that's like new, so like a new name, a name that you don't hear too often?
Something that's elegant but classic all in the same time.
Max has already been taken.
Yeah.
As my buddy who I'm seeing tomorrow, Jason, who named his child Max after knowing me for a long time, I asked, "Did you name your son after me?" And he said, "Put it this way, man. We've always liked the name, and you didn't fuck it up."
My best friend growing up, the aforementioned bushfire scenario, he named his son Matthew.
Well, nice.
Because it's the trend. Oh, well. Anyway.
I think we're getting out of here, but before we get out of here, let's just talk about a couple things, like simple things, like how we can follow you and what's going on, and like where you got Brewgaloo coming up, which for time purposes, whenever this was released, it's either happened or it's about to happen. But we just had Brewgaloo, let's say that.
Sure.
And it was awesome.
Big things going on for us is we will be putting our beers in 16-ounce cans for the first time and releasing them at our Summerfest event, which is May 18th. So we've got 2 live bands that are going to be out in the beer garden. We've got 2 food trucks. Arepa Culture and Baguette About It are going to be there.
Oh, wow.
We'll have games going on, cornhole, disc golf. We've got we're going to do grain sack races and water balloon toss because, it's Summerfest. Let's have some fun. And we're releasing 3 new beers in cans. So we'll have our new version of Opacity and Transparency will be coming out in cans. And a special, we're calling it Summer Zest, we'll be releasing at Summerfest. It's an American wheat beer with orange and lime zest.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it should be a really fun day. We're really looking forward to it. And we've got a mobile canning company coming in a couple days ahead to can it for us. And we'll be rolling it out that day.
And if you ever need an idea, we could do an NC F&amp brew.
That's right.
Yeah. And saves Max some of that Mexican lager because he needs some of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Thanks so much, Chris, for being here.
Yeah, this was fun.
For everybody out there, if you're in Durham, go to the Glass Jug. I don't know about eating. You can get some stuff around there, but you will drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.